Welcome to episode 1 of the Empowered Half Hour. I'm your host, Becca Powers, and for this episode, it's going to be a solo. Main reason is because I want to share with you my story. The whole foundation of the Empowered Half Hour is to share stories. And it's in these stories that the lessons are revealed. You get to understand where people may have had challenges, how they overcame them, so that you, as the listener, can find yourself in these stories. It's been proven over time that people find themselves in other people's stories, and that these stories are 10 times more empowering, motivating, and triggering those ahas than if you're reading information or someone's just going at sharing from an academic perspective. So I hope you enjoy all the episodes to come. But since this is the first one, I wanted to tell you a little bit about me and my backstory. So, for those of you that don't know me, I am a work life strategist, burnout expert, Kundalini teacher, and I'm also a Fortune 500 sales executive. I've spent 20 years in corporate America running sales teams and being an individual contributor, hit 7 presidents clubs. My biggest team was over 100 people and my revenue was 500 million. So have a lot of experience and been a part of some big things, but also a lot of stress. Sales is no joke. There's a lot of pressure. And so I come about things from that perspective because that's where my experience is. So as I have gotten to this point, I lean heavily on my past work experience because, hey, it's my experience. It's a part of me, right? It's not just I worked there or did this. These are my experiences and they're part of me. But it's also through my work experience in corporate America that I had to meet myself. At one point, I became severely burnt out, and I have so many stories to share. So, y'all tune in because there's no shortage of stories in my world. But what I want to share with you today is how did I get here? How did I get to the point where I'm hosting this podcast? And why do I care about it so much? Those are the things that I want to share with you today. So, the backstory to how I started the Empowered Half Hour and became a work life strategist and burnout expert is because my life fell apart, quite frankly. My work and my life were a damn disaster. And it's really because I tried to take on too much and I powered through situations that I should have addressed. And it was really hard to take accountability and also stop. I was a main provider at the time, and that role and responsibility took a lot of energy from me. And I took it very seriously. I love my family dearly and I wanted them to have the best life possible. So I was willing to sacrifice myself for them. And it was in the sacrificing that I got everything all wrong. And so the story is I was working as a sales leader and I was working at a role that I really believed in. I love the company mission. I love my sales team. We had aggressive growth goals and I was all about it. I also loved my beautiful blended family. I had my husband, my 2 kids, his 2 kids. At this moment in time, our children were in middle school. So the time frame of this is around fall of 2016. And I had been working 12-hour days for a while because I just felt I had to. My drive was an hour both ways, and then I was about 10 hours at work. So 12 hours days it is as far as what my family and I experienced. I was gone from the house for 12 hours a day. So I was on my fourth bad day in a row. And I remember coming home from work feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, and just running on empty. I didn't have much left in me. And I get out of the car, walk in the house, and my kids do what kids who love their moms do. They run up to me and they're like, "Hey, mom, can't wait to tell you about our day." And instead of meeting them with excitement to hear about their day, I met them with anger. And I was like, "Can I put my freaking purse down and I need 5 minutes. Mommy needs 5 minutes." And I actually dropped the F bomb. So, whoa, that was my response. I caught myself. I felt my harshness mainly because I saw their reaction and it took me back. I saw their smiles go to frowns. I saw their shoulders start to roll in and their heads hang. And I was like, oh my goodness, who am I becoming? And I had to ask myself, is this the person and mother that I want to be? The answer was no. And I did my best to recover the situation and get back on track and to be present for them. But the truth is, I was at such a low capacity. I doubt if I'm looking back at that scene that I did a very good job. And the reason being, how can I be there for them if I wasn't even being there for myself? I had a lot of work to do. But that moment in time is so clear in my mind because it was a pivotal moment that created change. Later that night, when the kids went to bed and I was getting ready for bed, I was taking off my makeup and just really getting in a place of reflecting and starting to beat myself up and all those things. But I remember very vividly that I felt hopeless. I felt powerless. I felt that I no longer knew what to do. And the truth is, I didn't. I didn't know how to recover from this moment, and I didn't know how to change tomorrow. And in this space of already being exhausted, in this space of being shocked, quite frankly, I felt a lot of guilt and shame over my actions. I had, believe it was a nervous breakdown. No one ever diagnosed it, but I was so exhausted mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically that I collapsed to the bathroom floor. And there was no one there to catch me. Like, that's just, my husband was there, but he was in another room and I was doing my thing. And this whole experience that I'm about to share, story part two, was only just a few minutes, but it felt like an eternity in my head. And I fell to the bathroom floor in complete fatigue. And I tried to stand up and I couldn't. I couldn't even find the strength to stand up. So as I'm laying there on the bathroom floor, I began to weep. I was weeping in sadness and powerlessness and hopelessness. And it was in that moment that now I know what I did was surrender the moment to the universe, God, whatever your words are. But I surrendered my moment to God and I was just like, I no longer know how to do this. I don't know how to be different. I don't know how to change tomorrow, but all I know is that I can't continue doing what I'm doing like this. This is not the mom I want to be. This is not the wife I want to be. This is not the person I want to be. And I could tell deep down, if I got honest with myself, I knew I was working myself to death. And that is not the outcome that I wanted to have for any of us. So I prayed to God and I was just like, I need a different way. Show me what to do. And when the answer came back, it came back in the form of a thought. And that thought was a memory of a conversation that I had 3 years earlier. Former VP of sales told me, Becca, you're the CEO of your life. And so as I'm laying there in what I would consider my most powerless moment, I had the most powerful thought. I'm the CEO of my life. And it gave me the inner empowerment and courage to stand up. It gave me the energy that I didn't have because I laughed and said, well, if I'm the CEO of my life, then what am I doing laying here on the bathroom floor? And I rose up a different woman than the one that went down. And what I want to share with you from that story is, well, I did go on to write Harness Your Inner CEO. So if you want to hear that whole story, you can go buy the book or listen to the audio. But what I want to share with you is that in that moment, I was able to find this inner resource within myself to stand up. And I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I knew it was going to be okay.